Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Thrive and Grow, the program where you get to learn a lot more in terms of what it is that you can do, learn from the experts who will share their experiences, teach you a skill probably sometimes, and primarily the objective is to empower you to grow to be the best you can. So, so this is today's guest, as we have is. As you're aware, a very renowned person, Dr. Sanjay Arora. And before I introduce him, I'd like you to have a look at, there he is. Hello, Dr. Sanjay Arora. Sanjay is the MD of Suburban Diagnostics, as you're aware, very well-renowned pathology lab and a chain of testing laboratories all over primarily Western India. But this story is more about Dr. Sanjay's journey from a pathologist going into becoming an entrepreneur. And in terms of what are the lessons that he has learned along this journey. So this is what Dr. Sanjay said that he is going to tell us about, that the 10 different things that he actually learned while on his journey. Right. So, Dr. Sanjay, I leave the floor to you. And first of all, welcome to the show and thank you for being here.
Thank you, Sandeep, and thank you for giving me this opportunity of basically sharing, stories from my life's journey and my experiences with everyone. So thank you again for giving me this opportunity.
Yeah, it's completely my pleasure. So before we go forward, Sanjay, I'd like to, give a sense of what it is that where you've reached in the entrepreneurial journey. So it's 26 years of Suburban Diagnostics, 4,000 patients served daily, 12,000 home visits done monthly, over 2,000 different tests being offered by the laboratory, 170 plus diagnostic centers all across Maharashtra, Goa, and MP. A workforce of 1,200 plus, 80 plus specialized doctors. And of course, in this pandemic, you've done over 125,000 COVID tests with, experts in all your departments. So this slide is primarily not for you, Sanjay, it's for the audience to get a sense of what it is that you have built coming in from becoming a pathologist. So tell me, Sanjay, when you started off, okay, did you think that this is how far you're going to go? Did you have any clue when you started off? I mean, we'll come to the rest of your story also, but I just want to hear from you first.
No, great question, Sandeep, because that's a question that's often asked to me, that when Anju and I, my wife and I, started this company on 17th of July, 1994, did we even think that, what will be at the end of 26 years? And, for us, it's always been one day at a time, 1 week at a time. We've never had the opportunity to, think long, to have been, lived this dream. I'm continuing to live this dream where we are able to add value and impact lives almost every single day. So, that's the real dream that Anju and I continue to live even after 26 years.
Wow. So it's awesome to have that in terms of being able to live your dream. That's not what very many people get the opportunity to do that. So yes, I understand that. So tell me, in terms of the what we had gone through, and you sent us a slide deck which we will be sharing slide by slide with the audience. And I would like to now not stand between you and the audience. But if the audience has any questions, please feel free to let them in. Please punch them in the comments below. That's something for the audience. Sanjay will take your questions. And let me make this clear. Please do not ask any questions on COVID. Okay, this program is not about that. Okay, so we could probably have another program on COVID and tests and what should patients do and doctors do and healthcare. So this is more about Dr. Sanjay Arora's entrepreneurial journey. You have any questions on what he thought, when he thought, how did he think, why did he think? Okay, so those are the questions that we would like to really welcome. Sanjay, I'll turn it over to the first slide. and you can take it from there.
Sure,
Very
sure. Thank
interesting set of slides that you've made, Sanjay, I must say. Okay, so here's the first one.
So thank you again, Sandeep, and welcome everybody. Thank you all for taking time on a Saturday afternoon to join us. So when I started our first lab in 1994, we occupied about 800 square feet of space in a ground floor just outside Lokhandwala complex. And we had a team of just 5 of us, Anju and myself, and there were 3 other staff members. So we had made a time that our lab will start at 7:30 in the morning. Most labs at that time started at 8. So if we had to make a differentiator, we said, let us start earlier so that we can at least, start adding value to people and give them half an hour extra time in the morning. But that meant I had to reach every day at 6:30 because I had to, prepare for the lab, prepare for the patients. So every day I would reach the lab at 6:30 and I would open the shutter. And I did that for so many years. I would open the shutter and pull down the shutter at the end of the day, somewhere between 8:30 and 9. And that used to be my typical day. And then I realized that, I'm opening and closing the shutter every day. And, there were so many lessons that opening a shutter taught me. And I thought I must share that with all of you as a start. So the first lesson that it taught me was that, whenever you start your day, you have to bow down, you have to bend down to lift the shutter up. So basically, it's teaching me humility. It's teaching me that no matter where you are, how you have to bow down in front of a bigger force. And it is teaching me humility, and that has held me in good stead, that I try and be as humble as I need to be or can be. The second lesson it taught me is a sense of ownership and responsibility, because I have the keys to the shutter. So I have to make sure that I hold on to those keys. It's a big responsibility. It's a sense of ownership. So I can't afford to lose those keys. The third lesson was punctuality, that if I have to make sure that the first patient is treated at 7:30 and I have to make sure that it opens at 6:30, I have to reach at 6:30 every day. And then after that, there will be the guy who will come and do the housekeeping, and my first technician will come at 7:15. So if I don't reach on time, nothing will start. So it taught me the importance of punctuality. It also taught me the importance of teamwork and collaboration, that I can't do everything myself. So I have to make sure that after me, there is a person who will come for housekeeping, then somebody else will come for the next job. And towards, the whole day, I have to collaborate with people and work. So it taught me the sense of collaboration and teamwork. I don't know how many people have really opened a shutter, but those who have would know that, if a shutter is well maintained, it's much easier to open a shutter that is well maintained versus a shutter that is rusted or not well lubricated. So it taught me the importance of maintenance, that, look after the things that are important to you. So maintenance was something that I learned from opening a shutter every day. And it also taught me, like people would know, that, you need to be physically fit to open a shutter. It's not very easy to open a shutter and pull it down. So it taught me that I have to be physically fit myself. So look after yourself to look after the things that are important for you. It also taught me to have a back at 7:30 in the morning or 6:30 in the morning, but work still must go on. So I must have a spare set of keys that I can hand over to somebody else who can go and open the shutter at 6:30 in the morning. So it taught me the importance of having a backup plan. It also taught me the importance of communication, that at the end of the day, when the shutter is down, if somebody needs to come and reach you, and this is before the internet era, before cell phones were there. So I painted the outside of the shutter with the landline number of my residence, so that if somebody needs to reach me, they can still come there and, find that number and contact me. So it taught me the importance of communication. And last but not the least, it taught me that at the end of the day, when you pull the shutter down, basically it's teaching me, don't carry your stress home. Don't carry all the burden home. So unburden your mind at the end of the day. And what I want to leave as a message is that, opening the shutter in our lives is symbolic, like opening the shutter of your mind. So there are small things that you do every day, and they'll be triggers to opening your mind. So open the shutter of your mind to explore so many things that are going on around you. So that was my first experience. So maybe we can move on to the next slide then.
Yeah.
So as a pathologist, so I'm a pathologist trained at Grant Medical College, and then I went to the US to train with the best people in the world. The only thing they expected from me was that buy a microscope that will allow you to use the skills that we will teach you. So even before I started the lab, I had invested in a microscope at that time. This microscope is still there with me. It is the biggest and the most prized investment that I ever made. At that time, 26 years ago, it cost me 1,75,000 rupees. And people used to wonder, why are you investing such a heavy price in a microscope? But it was a responsibility I had to the people who taught me pathology, that to use the skills, you must have the right tools. And recently, I handed over this microscope to my daughter, who has started her MD in pathology at Tata Hospital, as a symbol of a legacy that will continue. So when I spoke about this to my team, and I also realized that over the last 6 or 7 years, I have stopped sitting behind the microscope. So the microscope actually is my comfort zone. Sitting behind the microscope, that's what I've been trained to do. That I look at slides. I'm trained. I'm comfortable in that area. But I realize that if I have to grow the organization, grow the enterprise, I must move away, get outside my comfort zone. So when I spoke about this to my team actually responded by saying that all of us have a microscope that is holding us back. And microscope was actually paraphrased as a comfort zone. So the lesson here is that I had to move away from my comfort zone, stop sitting behind the microscope. That would allow me to grow the business and grow the enterprise. If I was still sitting behind the microscope, perhaps we would have been that there's one location. But today, because I moved outside my comfort zone, I've been able to grow the enterprise and also hand over my legacy to my daughter. So it's important that to grow, you move outside your comfort zone. That was a big lesson for me.
It's funnily, it's always said that we do progress when we move out of the comfort zone. The question
Right.
is, it's easier said than done. The most important thing that I've realized is most of us don't know when is it that we are stuck in our comfort zone, and when is it that we need to move out. When did
Sure.
you get a sense of this, in terms of that okay, now I am in my comfort zone, but if we need to get this going, I need to move out from my comfort zone. So when did you actually get a sense of this?
So there was this patient, I won't name him. He's unfortunately passed. He used to come for his diabetes tests, and very, very intelligent young man. He unfortunately passed because of a very freak accident. And every time he would come to me and I would discuss his blood sugar reports, at the end of it, he would tell me, "Okay, doc, now show me your reports." So I would say, what reports? I haven't done my tests. He said, "I'm not talking about those reports. I'm talking about your MIS." And at that time, I didn't even know what MIS. I said, "I know what MISS is, but I don't know what MIS is." So, he told me that, if you continue sitting behind the microscope, you will not know what is happening, looking at your P&L, looking at your growth opportunities. So he was the one who triggered this thought that, move from behind the microscope to the other side, get people who are better than you, who can sit behind the microscope. So the first, I worked with her for 6 months, to make sure that, and these are all postgraduate MD pathologists, but it took me more than 6 months to actually allow her to start signing the reports. But I'm very proud to say today that same pathologist is our lab director. So she started with us as a new pathologist, but has progressed over the last 16 years to be, a force to reckon with herself. So it's important that if you have to move outside your comfort zone, you get people who are better than you, who can replace you in your comfort zone.
Wonderful. So that's one thing, that to say, to get out of the comfort zone and to let go. But your next slide really takes it.
So what happened, Sandeep, is that when I started Suburban Diagnostics, I was only trained in pathology, but I had no idea about how to run an enterprise. So what is operations, what is sales, what is marketing, what is finance, what is HR, what is logistics, what is IT? These were all Greek and Latin to me. And the first 10 years of running this enterprise was actually like a working MBA for me. And this is perhaps the best way that I could have learned. By doing things yourself, that's the only way you can really learn. So today what happens is that we have professionals across all functions, but because I did almost everything with my own hands. I'll give you an example. uh, about 10 years after we started the lab, there was a large corporate lab that set up its presence within Lokhandwala complex. And we felt extremely threatened at that time that, this huge competition has come and what do we do? And we could not afford to invest in real estate inside Lokhandwala complex. So we decided to do something called as home visits. And because we didn't have a large manpower, who would do the home visits was me. So I would every day in the morning reach the lab, take my visit bag, and go door to door to collect blood samples. So people could not come to us, we would go to them. And what started off as a threat has today become our biggest opportunity, where we do, as you said, over 12,000 home visits every month.
Yeah.
So it started off as something which was a threat, but we got into it. I did it myself for so many years, and today we have a team of almost 100 people who are exclusively doing home visits. So every threat can become every opportunity. You can look for opportunities in threats as well. Something like
Yeah.
that.
So, the thing is, all entrepreneurs, we face such challenges. And the thing is that a lot of us do get intimidated by it. A lot of us, do decide to move forward. What is it that, made you, kept you going? So in terms of, like you said, that when there was a large lab that came in, everyone thought it's a threat, but, you looked at it differently. Was it a strategy that you had, or was it one of those things? So how do you decide things? Do you sleep over it? Do you, are you the aggressive type? Do you say that, okay, I don't care, let's just go do it? So
Yeah,
what
so I think
what's your thought process like?
absolutely. So I think I've always been involved in competitive sports right from my school days. Even when I was in Jamnabai, I was part of the football team. And
I
I think
remember that. Yeah.
sport teaches you a lot of competitiveness. And as my father says, everybody plays sport only to win. Of course, sometimes you don't win, but you always compete. And that competitiveness has been with me right from my school days, maybe because of my active participation in sports. So I never give up. I've always been blessed with the advice of people like my father, who always has been the wind beneath my wings. And I've always been blessed with great friends, great team members as well. So collectively, we've always found ways to tackle any opportunity, any threat. So I think we always look forward. I mean, we always learn from what has not gone well, but we don't give up. And I think the motivation has always been that as long as you continue to add value to people. So for me, Sandeep, the bottom line is, have I added value today? So if I'm able to add value even to one person every day, I feel my day is good on that particular day. So as long as we continue to add value, I think we're moving in the right direction.
Super. So let's move on to the next lesson. That's it.
So
and talking of adding value, that's a great one.
So I think it may be a little cliche that we all know that relationships matter, but this has worked for me like nothing else. A relationship, that recommends patients to get tests done, recommended with, my relationship with my patients, who have become very, close friends of mine now. Relationship with my team members. I have people with me who have worked with me for more than 20 years, more than 15 years, more than 10 years. I have so many people who've continued to grow with the organization. And a very, very strong relationship with, who typically we call as vendors, but I call them my business partners. And it is almost every business partner who has come and added value by saying, look, doc, I think this is missing, you should add this is missing, do that. So we just find ways to if you add value to people, they will reciprocate. So I'll give you a couple of stories here.
Sure, go ahead.
There was one particular vendor or business partner called Jignesh, and he was working in a large firm. And one day he came and he showed me this futuristic looking analyzer for my lab. And I said, Jignesh, I don't think so. This is, way beyond me. And he said, no, sir, this is right for you. You please think about it. Today, we have the top of the line of that particular instrument. 10 years ago, what we took, we have the top of the line, at least 10 instruments of those. And he was the one who actually motivated me to look at that instrument. In a few months after that incident, he left and joined another company. And 6 months after joining another company, one day he called me and he said, Dr. Roy, I've joined, I've left company A and I've joined company B, but I just want to come and have a cup of coffee with you. I said, yeah, sure. What happened? So he came down and he said, sir, I have not enjoyed the last 6 months because nobody has fired me in the last 6 months. So every time somebody would come and meet me, I would really take them to task because I hold my patients so important that, I make sure that the vendors are always kept on top. But what they told me is that every interaction they had with me was a learning experience for them. So he told me that, in the last 6 months, I haven't learned anything new. So I've just come so that you can give me a little firing so that I can at least keep growing. So that will remain with me forever. So when we completed 20 years, we released a small coffee table book, it's called 20 Years, 20 Lives. So these are the 20 lives that we have impacted over the last 20 years. And we had a small sort of a intimate session with, some of those families and those individuals on how together this relationship has thrived over the last 20 years. And when we completed 25 years, we released, a book on the 25 success stories within Suburban Diagnostics. So it's important that, you build relationships and it's a two-way street. And I'm telling you, Sandeep, the only thing that has worked for me is this, that, you give, you get what you give what you get. So, it's a round circle. And, the only thing that has really worked for me is to respect relationships.
Tell me one thing, Sanjay. When you also mentioned earlier, about getting your hands dirty and then working with people and getting them to do things. Do you? I mean, since you work behind a microscope a lot, do you micromanage your guys also, your teams? Or maybe I should ask them this question, but we will do that later. What is your opinion? Do you feel the need to micromanage them, or do you just let them be?
I think you are right, Sandeep, that when somebody has started from scratch and grown an enterprise, it's very difficult to let go. And I'm still grappling with that, very honestly. And if you ask my team members, I've got some really top-notch professionals as part of my team today. I'm very lucky to have them. And they tell me, look, Doc, I mean, two of us can't run the organization. So, give us the space and, trust us to do what it is. So I tend to dive in, but I'm learning. So I'm actually looking at maybe, hiring an executive coach to teach me how to let go and, how to move up so that I can, let people do what they're supposed to do. So very true, Sandeep. Great question. I think,
as an entrepreneur, especially a first generation entrepreneur, I think this is the one question that grapples us all. So I wanted to know from you, how did you do it? Because your team size grew from like two of you, to so many of you also. So that's
today I was the only pathologist when we started, and today we have 40 pathologists. Everyone who's better than me, and
which brings us to the next one. Yes.
yes, absolutely. Yeah. So the one thing that I have learned over the last 26 years is, for skill, because you can train a skill, but you can't train attitude. And that has been my biggest learning for me, is always hire for attitude. You can train the skill over a period of time, and I've been able to do that because I know that I can't do everything myself. So it is very important, as you said, you have to learn to delegate, you have to learn to empower. But the one lesson that I've learned is inspect what you expect. And it is very important to also articulate that, that what you expect, articulate that, and then find ways to inspect what you expect. It is very important that, because of my hands-on experience, you keep adding value, because of your experience of so many years. And I want to share a small anecdote here that I've had the good opportunity of working with few very, very uh, excellent ex-servicemen, people who have retired from the armed forces. One is currently part of my team, but I've also worked with people in the past, and I would want to encourage this, and I want to give this message out that, look at these people. They've done great for the country anyways, but because of their training, their background, great in admin roles and, similar such opportunities. So, I've had some great experience working with ex-armed forces servicemen as well. And certain skills in leadership come out of experience, that it is very important that you lead by example. So if I want people to come on time, I have to come on time myself. I can't expect people to come on time, but I come late. Very important that you appreciate generously and publicly, but admonish privately. Never admonish publicly, never admonish over a weekend, because you don't know what go to, the state of mind of the person over a weekend. And like I said, inspect what you expect. That has been probably the biggest learning for me.
Wonderful. So when you Sanjay, when you say that you build a team that's better than you, okay, so and you also rightfully admitted that most entrepreneurs are good at a couple of things, not good at everything. So
Right.
when you're not good at everything, okay, and we don't really know, like let's say you're from the medical background and you don't really know HR and accounts and things like that. How do you know what type of people to hire better than you, as you say, in doing their roles? So what principles do you keep in mind? You mentioned one in terms of attitude. What else do you keep in mind when you give your team instructions that this is the type of people we need to hire?
So I think stability in their past experience. We look for people who have been stable, who have not shifted too many jobs. We definitely do a reference check. I think that's something which I've learned, that speaking to previous employers. Of course, we definitely look at giving opportunity to freshers. We do a fair amount of campus interviews as well. So, and we've seen some freshers who have really done well with us. And I think a lot of comes from just making mistakes yourself. So you learn from the mistakes that you made. You go back to your drawing board and you think, okay, where did you go wrong? And sometimes you, of course, you work with people who are in the headhunting or the search business, who have more expertise. You give them clarity of what is the job role and what is your expectation. And if you work with good people, generally you will get good people to work with you. And I believe generally most people are good. It's the environment that you create that actually makes them thrive.
Yeah, which brings us to the fact that we learn, we do, we come back, we learn, we do, and that's your next slide.
Yeah. So this, of course, is a very experience-based term that we use in Suburban now. See, when you are a small organization, as we were, every function is one part of your head. So when I'm delegating things, it is delegating to different parts of my body only. And I'm not, delegating to different people. But when you grow as an organization, you build a lot of layers. And when you pass on a message or you communicate something, there is bound to be, loss of communication, miscommunication, loss of translation, so sometimes just when you go down those layers and the hierarchies that you create, there is a chance for things to get missed. So my message is that what starts with you ends with you. So you call me Sandeep and say, okay, Sanjay, I need to get this test done. I will pass it on to somebody in my team who might pass it on to somebody else in their team. But for me, it will only get closed when the person who I passed it on to calls me back and tells me, yeah. So we don't want things to get lost in translation between A, B, and C, or different layers or different hierarchies. So the simple learning that I had is what starts with you ends with you. So you have somebody who's doing registration in the morning, and their job is to do only registration. But they committed to Sandeep that I will make sure that I'll give you a report at 3:30. Now, for them, their role was to do registration and to put it onto the system, that report to be ready at 3:30. And then they expect that the lab will process the test. But the way in which we teach them is that at 3 o'clock, make sure that is the report actually ready, so that you don't wait for Sandeep to call you at 3:30 and say, oh, my report is still not come to me. Sometimes we do lose that. So because I did the registration, because you are my patient, I know what commitment I made to you. I make sure I follow up on that and make sure it happens to you. That's all. So what starts with you ends with you. Close the loop on everything that you started.
But doesn't it become a challenge when the organization grows larger, and I'm sure your organization is going to grow even larger. So this closing of the loop, as you say, it's good to always close the loop, but wouldn't it be more, I mean, do you use any kind of technology to do this, or is it just a manual thing?
No, great. I mean, you are just perfect in the way you're thinking, and actually picking out thoughts from my head. So when you're a smaller organization, you can do it manually, but when you grow, you can't. So we've invested in a lot of technology. We have a very, very marquee CRM platform, which keeps everybody informed on the status. We are actually now making that, like the tracking system in the logistics company. So even the patients can track where their sample status is. We are introducing chatbots. So there's a lot of technology intervention, as you said very correctly, that it's not physically possible in a larger organization when you are servicing sometimes more than 5,000 patients a day for everybody to keep a tab manually. So I think technology, systems, and processes. So we have a separate department that only looks into systems and processes, which then digitizes them by getting technology solutions. So all the manual interventions then eventually become digitized.
Yep. Which then, brings us to the next one.
Yes. So like I mentioned earlier that, there is nobody on this planet who will not make mistakes. All of us make mistakes. My biggest learning is that don't hide your mistakes.
Wow.
Because what happens is, if you share your mistakes with people, there are 1,000 other people who will learn from those mistakes. And maybe one way for you creating this platform is for people like me to share my experiences and my mistakes that I have made so that other people can benefit from it. So it's very important that we encourage people in our team to highlight their mistakes. We create a corrective action, preventive action document out of that. We do a root cause analysis and we circulate that across the organization so that other people can learn from these mistakes. So it's very important that you acknowledge, yes, you put your hand up, you make a mistake. Very important that you don't repeat that mistake. Very important that you share your mistakes so that other people can learn from them. And very important that you also learn from other people's mistakes. You can't always make mistakes and then learn. If somebody else has made a mistake, you learn from their mistakes as well. So mistakes are an important part of growth, but we have to see how we channelize the learnings from these mistakes, proactively.
Yeah. So, like you very rightly said, people say learn from mistakes, and they almost always think that, you need to learn from your own mistakes. But I think the key is, as you rightly said, to learn from everybody else's mistakes, because you don't have the luxury of making all the mistakes yourself.
I say something, Sandeep, that there is no shortcut to experience. There is no shortcut, to that. But a smart person is somebody who learns from other people's experiences. And I'm hoping that, some people will have some takeaways from the mistakes and the experiences that I have made so that they don't need to make their mistakes.
Oh, I'm sure they will. There are lots of comments that have come up, but we will take them up. I don't want to break your flow. Let's move on to the next one first. Yeah.
So this is partly covered, like in the beginning, that, if you have to look after the things that are important to you, you have to first look after yourself. And it is very important that you become selfish in that you look after your mind, you look after your body, you look after your spirit. And you have to have this, work-life balance. It's sometimes cliched, but it is very, very important. So when you pull down your shutter at the end of the day, that's it. So you go back home, spend time in exercising, both exercise your body, exercise your mind, and of course your spirit. So it's very important that if you have to look after people, so I like this line, you can't pour from an empty cup. Fill your cup first, then you can fill other people's cup. If you are an empty cup, you won't be able to fill anybody else. So if you look after yourself, automatically you'll be in a position to look after other people. So first look after yourself. Very, very important.
Yeah, it's like I remember somebody gave this analogy that even when you're in an aircraft and they say, there's an emergency and the oxygen will drop from there, from the top, you put the mask on yourself first, before
Absolutely.
you put it on somebody else, so yes, that's very right what you said. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So true. Perfect. Perfect.
Yeah. So tell me, what is it that Dr. Sanjay Arora does to replenish the mind, body, and spirit?
Yeah. So I think the next slide probably can, highlight.
Okay. So let
Yeah.
us go to that then. Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
So I do a multitude of things, Sandeep. I think I have honed my skills as a chef much more over the last 4 months. Uh,
Hasn't everybody?
as everybody has. So eventually, I'm going to open a restaurant which is going to be called the Five Dish Cafe. There are five things that I make really well, and I'm going to open a restaurant called that. I love, I used to love to travel, of course, when there was an opportunity, and I'm a fairly, good photographer. I do cycling every Sunday. Uh, Music is a huge, huge passion for me, and I have a full DJ console at home. And eventually, I want to become a professional DJ. So I've learned from some very, very expert DJs as well. So music, sport, food, photography, travel. Well, these are some of the things that keep me engaged, and keep me occupied.
Which brings us to one of the questions that got asked, and I'm just trying to search for that question. We just put it up on, if I can get that, in terms of how do you actually manage your time?
Right.
Yeah, so
So
because that's the biggest challenge that entrepreneurs have in terms
sure.
of they're passionate about their work, they're passionate about growing their new business, and they're passionate about everything. So any time invested or spent outside of that seems to actually be a waste. So how do you reconcile that yourself?
No, no. So I mean, I have a fairly, scheduled cycle, and people actually know that Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 7:30 to 8:30, I have my workout session with my trainer, who comes online nowadays and does a workout with me. Sunday mornings, 6:30 to 8:30, uh, I am out cycling. Come back and I have to make breakfast for the family every Sunday morning. uh, Music, every time I finish my workout, from 8:30 to say 10 o'clock, there is music that is playing on the background. My favorite pastime is to play music for friends. In fact, some time ago I spoke to a friend who's a professional RJ, and we're looking at curating a music session for all of you, where I'm looking at songs which are related to the corona pandemic and how we can learn from these songs. uh, so uh, yeah, I find time,
So
in
So,
those
so
ways.
yeah, so you're going to open a restaurant. You're going to, cut an album. You're going to, okay. So, let's get that bucket list in order. So, which is the first one that comes out?
So everybody has a bucket list, and my bucket list had bungee jumping as my number one item.
Oh
So
wow.
last year I went to Rishikesh. I asked so many friends to accompany me, but nobody did. But my oldest friend from Grand Medical College, he goes there every 6 months. So he motivated me. So we went for river rafting at Rishikesh, and then India's highest bungee jumping point. I think I was perhaps one of the oldest first time bungee jumpers in the country. I have a certificate to prove that. So I did bungee jumping from, almost 100 meters. That was a thrilling experience. So yeah, I mean, the bucket list will continue to grow. So I think music is definitely up there. So
Hmm.
DJing probably will become easier to do. Opening a restaurant is easier said than done, but I'll still continue to cook for friends at home. So I guess this would be the list. I think first would be music, and then perhaps the restaurant after that.
Yeah. Okay. So I will move on to the next and the last slide.
Yeah.
In terms of, yeah. So tell this is very interesting. What do you
Yeah.
mean
So,
by this? Yeah.
so I'll tell you, Sandeep, you know, uh, for me to be able to volunteer and speak on a platform like this is, maybe 10 years ago, people who have known me well would have just not imagined that Sanjay and doing public speaking, because just to share that, I had a very, very bad problem with stammering, and I took speech therapy for 4 years to be able to speak like this. But I've learned that the best way you can add value is by giving back what you get. So today I volunteer to speak, to share my experience, and any platform that I get an opportunity to, only because I want to add value to people. So I said 25 years, so last few years, my team, my daughter have been encouraging me to speak, thanks to friends like you who create this wonderful platform. So I'm very happy to share my experience and my learnings as much as possible. Every year on our foundation day of Suburban Diagnostics, that is 17th of July, Anju makes it a point to visit orphanage and an old age home, and we generously give what they want. Every year on Diwali, maybe for the first almost, I would say, 18 years, we used to give Diwali gifts. We would give gifts to friends, you would give gifts to your business partners, and we had a budget for that. So Anju and I finally realized that this budget can be used much better. So that same budget now, we have stopped giving gifts to anybody on Diwali, and we don't, we request people also not to give gifts, and we gift that entire amount to charity. So we have underprivileged education as our top charity. So we make sure that we find ways to give back to society. So it's very important that give what you get. The thrill in giving is far more than getting, and we are all living a blessed life. So very, very important that you put your hand up and add value to society. Even this whole opportunity with the COVID or coronavirus, we were the first lab in the country to be given the opportunity to do testing. When the Supreme Court withdrew, that all labs will have to do it free of cost, we did not stop doing tests even for a single day. So for those days where we could not charge, we continued doing the tests. Then somebody came as a benefactor and supported us at that time, because they saw that we are still continuing to do testing. So if you are good in your intentions, you always have people who will come and support you. So for us, this is not a business, this is an opportunity to give back to society. On 24th of March is when we did our first test, Sandeep, and 24th of March happens to be my birthday as well. Now this will be etched in my memory forever, that it was meant to be. It was a sign that this was an opportunity where we as an organization could truly give back to society. Not too many people are privileged to add value in a pandemic situation who can actually truly contribute, and we were given this chance, and we feel truly blessed and privileged to be able to fulfill our destiny at this point of time. So that's the parting message, that you must give back what you get.
It's wonderful that you say that we are blessed to be able to give back. I think that's a very, very strong and very, very deep takeaway from what you said, Sanjay. And it's wonderful what you and the team at Suburban Diagnostics is doing. And
Thank
so
you.
now we will look forward and take some of those questions and comments that came in. Okay, so Sanjay, bear with me while I try to put them up on screen. Right.
Sure,
okay. Sure. So yes. Okay, yes, from Parag. I think this was towards the start of the program. You said that you need to unburden yourself in terms of that. And
Parag is the first ex-serviceman who worked with us.
Yeah, okay.
Parag is the one who started our center in Kandivali Thakur village.
That's right across from where I stay.
The one who fueled this success in Suburban many years ago. And because of the success of the Thakur Village Center, we got the confidence to scale up. So, Parag has a very strong emotional connect with Team Suburban and both Anju and me personally.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Parag, for joining the show. Yeah. Sudhir, proud of your achievements. What were your major setbacks? How you overcame them? Who are your mentors?
So, if I was to list my setbacks, it can go on for another a few hours, but
okay, let's make it simple. List 2.
So in year 2 of starting Suburban Diagnostics, so my biggest setback is that I trust people very easily. I don't think anybody is here to cheat you. So I trust people very easily. In year 2 of starting the lab, most of the equipment that we purchased in year 1 actually failed, and the company that sold that equipment to me actually shut shop. So it had a huge, mental impact on me, where I had fever for 6 months, from May until October. And Anju was pregnant at that time, and I had 104 fever for 6 months. Being a medical professional, being in the diagnostic industry, having friends in the industry, everything, 6 months of my second year without equipment, was such a huge setback for us. But my family, my parents, my sister, and of course my wife, they just completely stood behind me. All my friends, there are some, very close pathologists who, made sure that they chip in at that point of time, who stood by me at that time. So, that was a huge, huge setback, but it taught me such a big lesson that now when I buy an equipment, I have to make sure that I have, that I don't buy it from just a corner vendor, but I buy it from somebody who, has that backup, who has credibility, who has that support infrastructure. So what was actually a setback became biggest learning for me.
Yeah.
And today we've just learned to, grow from that. So, and I think my biggest mentor is my father, by without any doubt. He's the wisest man I've ever known. He's the wind beneath my wings, as I say. I mean, he's the visionary. He's the one who sort of pushed me into where I am today. I don't think I'll be even 10% of where I am without my father's influence. So he continues to be that influence on me even today.
Right. Thank you. Thanks, Sudhir, for asking that question. There's another question. What changes did you make to the lab's way of working, given the new normal of lesser physical visits during lockdown?
So I think there's a separate protocol that we have now made to make physical contact. So if you look at the whole COVID testing scenario, everything is online, from making a booking to selecting the center, to filling in your details, to making payment online. There is no physical interaction in doing a COVID test with us today. All you need to do is come to one of our centers and give the sample. You show a QR code, and that's it. So the physical actual interaction for doing a COVID test is less than 2 to 3 minutes today. And so technology has played a big role in minimizing the interaction that we've had. And of course, the protocols of wearing PPEs, making sure every person who walks into a center is given a fresh pair of gloves and masks. Our entire team has been trained on how to wear PPEs. We have distancing between people who can sit on chairs now. Even when we have lunch, for example, we have those glass screens, so that you can see each other, but there is no contact between people. So we have a 14-page document which we have released, and I can share that with you later on. What are the safety health precautions that we need to take, and we are circulating that for industry as well, so that they can learn from our experience over the last 4 months.
That's a great idea, Sanjay, and maybe you could get one of your team members to post it in the comments below, or a link to where it's available on your website.
So Abha is the one actually who prepared that, and I'll tell Abha to put a link on that back to work document, so to say.
Yeah, so it's just below the video, so that when people hear the video, and then they know that this link is available.
Customer service, and she has just put this book an appointment. That's how it is. Basically, it's just everything is online now.
Yeah. So that's great. Okay, so lots of people just checking in to say hi, and we just go through it, and okay, that's Ankita, and probably enjoying watching it. Alexandra Quadras, and Dr. Ashwin Patel. Okay, yeah. So he's my family doctor. Okay.
He's right in the corner to our center in Thakur Village.
Yes, I know.
And thank you for joining in, Dr. Ashwin.
Yeah.
Minoti has worked with us for 24 years, and she heads our training and audit and business process, one function that I spoke about earlier.
Yeah. Okay, yes, Nirmit, thank you very much for your appreciation. And
He has played a big role in advising me on hiring people. So Nirmit, his experience has been very useful.
yeah,
Parag is somebody who I can't speak enough about him. Uh, he is somebody who started off as a vendor, but has become one of my closest friends till date. And his role in the growth of the organization, I don't have enough words to express. I mean, he's beyond words today. I mean, his role and the way in which he has added value to our growth is just phenomenal. So thank you, Parag, for being there.
yeah. Thank you, Alka, for watching. Thank you, Sanjeev, for watching. Yeah. Priyanka, the ex-service person, colleague, Rotarian colleague of mine, and this morning we had another meeting in Rotary, and there was another discussion on how we can get the ex-armed forces members, to be involved. Yeah. So, yes, Rohit, thank you very much for watching.
Thank you.
Madhu, yeah, thank you. And Manoj, yes, I think he's associated with the Powai branch.
Yes.
Yeah, also a Rotarian, and yeah. Ramesh, yes. Okay, here we go. Here's the COVID question for you now. So you're probably going to have to answer it. How accurate are the COVID tests being done in India? Yeah.
So we use exactly the same technology that is used by the best companies in the world. So we use only US FDA approved kits from Thermo Fisher, or kits that have been globally accepted. Thermo Fisher, Roche, Abbott, these are the platforms that we use here. So the quality of the tests is, just as good, if not better than anywhere else in the world. The only difference is in the US, if you don't have insurance, you have to pay something like $700 for the test. Here you pay $30 for the test. That's the only difference. You
Wow.
get the reports also in less than 24 hours here. There it takes 4 days. Here you get it in less than 1 day.
Oh, wow. And so
Yeah.
much for, everyone saying that, we're probably not doing enough over here.
No. I think we started doing, few hundred tests every day. Today we do close to 2,000 tests every day. Our lab team has really, really, really scaled up beautifully. We work now 24 hours in the lab, and we've just performed phenomenally, to respond to this challenge.
Yes, I think somebody else from your team here on Twitter.
Right. Hi, Megha. Dr.
Yes,
Preeti.
thank you for watching. Yeah, thank you for watching. Bhushan, thanks. Yeah. And credit to your public speaking capabilities now.
Penelope is another, big influence in the success of Suburban Diagnostics. The first person who taught me a very important lesson, that when we started our lab in Kandivali, he asked me, in the morning, "तो संजय क्या खिला रहा है तू?" I said, "नहीं, लैब चालू कर रहा हूँ, आपको आके देखना है." He said, "नहीं, जब तक तू कुछ खिलाएगा नहीं, कोई आएगा नहीं ऐसा." So he taught me a very important lesson that, okay, you have all the technology, but you have to make sure that you take care of people also. So
Absolutely.
that was a big lesson that he taught me at that time, and continues to be a strong influence.
Yeah. Sanjay, we've spent a lot of time. Okay, we overshot the time that we thought we would, and but it's been wonderful hearing you and learning what you learned, and also learning from, I wouldn't say the mistakes, but learning from the lessons that you learned. And thank you for sharing them, with everyone else. And wonderful to have you on the program. Very proud to have you as my friend too. Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you. And I think thank you for doing such a phenomenal job of giving an opportunity for people to share their story and for taking out time to do that. Thank you again for this opportunity. Thank you everybody for
Thank you everyone for watching. And this video, for those who missed it, of course it's crazy to tell them in the live stream for those who missed it, but in any case, this you can tell the others. So for those who were not able to see it, it's available at the same link. Come back to the same place, click on it, and it'll play. Okay. So Sanjay, I'll just end the broadcast. Just stay right there. Don't go anywhere.
Thank you.